Hi, guys. So, one, can you see me? Two, can you hear me? I hope you are all doing well. I know, Richard, get it now. I was actually going to mention today some of this stuff that we should be getting and stocking up whatever we can here at the United States because prices are about to skyrocket, and they usually do anyway in the fall. But we'll get there. I don't want to jump ahead. So, thumbs up. Can you hear me? I hope everybody's well. So nice to see everyone. Yes, and yes, thank you. Okay, so thanks for being patient with me. Lucy's here. Hi, Body Illusion. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So nice to see you, sweetheart. Sorry I missed you last Friday. It's been a medical debacle in my household. So um, anyway, just send out good prayers for my pupper, Biscotti. He's better now, I think. But now both my dogs have they have a dew claw, right? And so when they run, it must chip it, crack it, and then at the dog park there are these little burrs in the ground that are sticking to their fur, and they are painful. And so my poor puppers have not been doing so well. Um, I'm okay. That's all I'm willing to talk about right now. But I have had some issues, and but so just send some heavenly light and love up to the heavens, and maybe it'll come raining down on me and trickle some sunshine and sparkles. Um, but I cannot believe that we are closing yet another month. Holy macaroni. Um, just seems to be flying by. Yes, thank you for sending 333s for these guys have really put it this way. It's so bad that the vet said to me, I think we need to sign you up for a package for the dogs so that you can so that they can come as often as they need to because it's killing my budget, and I don't mind giving up my food budget, but some of the stuff is outside of my food budget. So then, you know, it ain't there. And my credit card has been frozen, so I can't spend anymore. So anyway, not for here, not for anybody else's issues, but I've been spending a lot of time at the vet. Um, so we send them lots of love. My little boy Luca's sitting next to me. Biscotti, when he's not feeling good, he climbs under the chair and he sort of hides and burrows. So who the hell knows what that's all about? But that's what he's doing, my little love muffin. Um, so so we're here, tick tock, tick tock. The end of the month, and we've talked a lot about harvesting. So a lot of my garden themes, and I am going to post some pictures of the bounty that has come out of my garden. Um, so I'm really excited about that. But so the harvester archetype that we've talked about, and the law of perpetual transmutation. And I, there's things that we grow, we can name our, um, the points that we've been stuck on, or the elements that we're not moving forward with or through, maybe shifting energy and doing it in real time. And when I was prepping for this, I had a lot of bingo ball kind of notification, ding, 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 dings happening for me. And a lot of aha moments that I look forward to sharing. Our in my case, my growth is always subtle. I know in the past I've sort of prayed and wished for like these big bang theories of things just happening and oh great, solved. I eh, my growth is always slow and steady, and um, there's no real, horn blowing moments for me. So when I think about what's quietly grown in our lives that we haven't acknowledged yet, that's kind of what we're going to tap into a little bit today, because, I have these emotional weeds. Notice the garden theme that showed up this month. And, you know, what truth are these weeds trying to reveal? Right? So if we think of weeds, I don't think of weeds as failure. Although when you look at my garden right now, you might think of it as a failure, but they're indicators. Um, there's this recurring frustration that for me that reveals I'm the kind of person that needs structure. A recurring sadness that sometimes tells me I need to rest, I need to be honest, more honest, and that, sometimes this resentment is really about things that I need to talk about, right? Along those lines, when we think of, I don't know why I'm getting choked up. Oof. I talk about grief. And grief belongs here in this topic because it behaves exactly like a weed. It shows up suddenly, it grows wicked fast, and it takes over this mental garden of mine before I even realize that it sort of snuck up on me, right? So I don't need my iPad. I don't know why I have it sitting in my lap. So let me just move the iPad. Hold, please. I don't know why I'm getting all verklempt. And I touched a weed over here, and I'm afraid that it's irritating me. I'm wondering if I touch something that's either going to spread like a poison something, ivy or whatever, or something's irritating it. I'm like, oh, cripe. So when I think about these emotional weeds and grief, and what it's trying to relieve or release or reveal, grief doesn't always announce itself. You think you got a grip on it, and then bam, upside the head. Sometimes it slips quietly, and it comes across as my favorite irritation, exhaustion, or this sudden sadness out of no place when you're feeling good and maybe the sun's shining, unlike today, and it can envelop the mind quickly. It's like the fog rolling in, or I was kind of looking out the window, these clouds are rolling in, and before you know it, I'm overwhelmed, I'm confused, and I'm even angry. I'm angry at myself for not being stronger. But I would say this: grief isn't weakness, it's a messenger. Um, and it shows up to reveal sometimes something much deeper. It's like loneliness that you don't always name. And it might be a need for connection. It could be memories that surface. Um, Better be stuck than messy, says Cromel. Karen Suki, welcome. So nice of you to be here. And it's a moment where I need support and I try to push through alone. So grief isn't the enemy. The silence around it is. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring up a little bit today, to tie it into everything that we're going to continue to talk about. But, when grief hits suddenly, it's usually pointing to something underneath the surface. And so, I have to ask myself, what made me feel alone? Even if I don't say it out loud. And when we think of loss, and this October, my mom will be gone 10 years. My dad's only been gone a year. So what loss is echoing through me? Oh, sorry, Mish. I'm glad you're back, though. Um, and, where did I expect myself to be okay instead of being human? And it did come out of nowhere. And what support do I need or did I need that I didn't reach for? And this is the harvesting part. If we don't harvest out of the garden, what we planted rots, right? So grief often reveals the places where connection is missing and where tenderness is needed and where I've been carrying too much without help, without support, without love, without guidance, without companionship, right? So if we tack on to that, what if grief is the messenger? What is it trying to get me to acknowledge? And this is some of the aha moments that sort of, popped up. You know, Grief shows what needs tending. Loneliness shows what needs connection. I think sudden emotional overwhelm shows I need gentleness. And anger, my favorite emotion, not. Um, Anger at myself and others shows that I'm missing compassion somewhere along this trail, if you will. And so, one of the things that I just want to, and I'll go to the comments in a second, but I kind of have to stay focused on my thought process. You know, Grief is like this soul level truth. For me, so much of grief reminds us and reminds me how capable of loving I am deeply, completely, incandescently. And what it shows is we're capable of loving again. And here's the harvesting part for me. It's exposing the truth. Grief is exposing the truth because I have a fear of all of that, right? The loneliness, the longing, fear of loving again because loss is real, anger at myself for avoiding what my heart already knows, and that ache of wanting connection, which is why I have this channel. But the deeper truth is being alone is a choice, it's not a destiny. And so for me, the fear is, well, if I love again, I'm going to get hurt again. Well, here's the aha moment. We all have an end date. So no matter what, that love of whomever, my puppies who, I can't even, don't even want to breathe about, um, family, my friends, my companions here that I've met, we all have an end date. So it's unavoidable. Grief is unavoidable. Death comes to us all. I don't care if you want to do cryogenics, it still comes to us all. Because when you come out of cryogenics, everybody that you knew is dead, so you're still alone, right? Loss is inevitable. And this also tag teams, the grief of a friendship, of a relationship, divorce, some kind of a breakup, a job loss, a career loss, something. Grief isn't specific to a loved one, but for me it is, you know, and avoiding love, doesn't protect me from grief. I know it's silly, but what it's doing is only protecting me from having joy. And isn't that the opposite of what I've wanted? All right, I'm going to stop a second, go to the comments. So much loss echoes through me on the daily. I'm sick of it. Yeah, Mish. It's crazy because until a few months ago, I thought I had much of mine figured out. Then, bam, boy, was I wrong. Yes. And I would say to you what I would say to me, Diana Ross, reach out and touch somebody's hand, because we shouldn't have to walk it alone, and we choose to walk it alone. And there are reasons why we choose to walk it alone. No one can understand our grief. And I'm going to say that's correct. I don't know your grief because your grief is not my grief. Your experience is not my experience. What we learned and what I learned through my grief education course was to almost not talk at all when you're telling your story, which is going to be a series I'm going to do. I hope people will be interested. I hope some of you will participate. But the story of grief is to listen, because sometimes what we need is just to tell the story. I can laugh at myself and I can laugh at thoughts of my mom, even my dad. But sorry, guys. It comes in waves. Where is this coming from? Whew. And part of it is coming from me harvesting in this month, making decisions about, should I stay or should I go from my apartment? Should I stay or should I go from my town to another environment? The fear of not taking action is the same as taking action. Does that make sense? Because it's all unknown. When we think about grief showing up, it shows. I can't believe I'm crying, guys. I'm so sorry. We need some theme songs. I need a song to knock me out of it. Give me a good ABBA song. I miss being chosen by somebody. I miss being held. I'd say I miss being understood, but nobody ever understands me. Since I was a little girl, I didn't fit in, and I knew I didn't fit in, right? I've talked about that here. I would sit on our stoop and I had this clear view of the moon in all its phases. And I would sit there and I'd just say, please take me back. I don't belong here. And I knew at that time period I would never have children and I would never be married. And people can say, well, you can't say never. I knew it. I knew it. And part of that is fear. And I knew it back then. All right, let's just get a grip. It's like you miss sharing your life with someone. By choosing not to have a partner in my life, I miss sharing my garden. I miss sharing my puppers. I miss sharing uh, everything I would imagine. And let's be clear, I've never really let anybody in really close. And that was even before my mom passed. Um, because I made so many bad choices to fill that void. And those choices led to me shutting down the heart. And I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore because partly what I do is I want to think about how to say this. As a friend, I would host events and have people over, and I would be there and I would listen and I would participate in whatever it is. Hey, Tiff, welcome, hon. And my prayer, my hope was that it would be reciprocated when I needed it. Now, when it took a long time for me to work through all of this, and I know we've talked about it a little bit here, and so don't worry, puppy, Mama's okay. She's okay. She's just having a moment. She's having a moment. My little Luca's looking at me like, Mama, I got you, baby. Don't you worry. Your mama's just a little fakakta in the caboodle. Okay. I'll get to the comments again in a sec. When we give so much of ourselves, and we do it unconditionally, but it's like a gift. Sometimes when you give a gift and you don't receive one back, you're not supposed to. You give for the sake of giving. That's what I thought I was doing, but my hurt and the wounds came because I wasn't receiving back what I felt, what I needed. And so the survival mechanism was to shut it down. Instead, I didn't communicate to the people that I loved or to the partner I was trying to have a relationship with. This is what I need. Can we, can it be reciprocal? I love to make people feel good. I love to cook for people. I like to host for people. And part of the changes that are blossoming this month or harvesting, or what we're preventing from harvesting, keeps me shuttered in. Okay, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to go back to the comments. Okay. Karen said, John Edward recently said, what if grief isn't something to just move on from, but something that rewires how you love? I think that's true. Mish has, this poem has kept me since I found it after losing Christina, the dash. And I think you've shared this before, as a matter of fact. So definitely would want to, I'll read that again. Mish says again, no, not one person, no matter if they're twins, will ever know another's grief, struggles, or love. Absolutely. Mish says, Isn't that what we truly grieve to begin with, though? When we lose someone, we grieve what could have been, what we should have done. No going back. That's true. When life was comfortable, because you know there's no second half. There is no second. Yeah, exactly. And Richard says, "True, Misha. We can only do our best to respond out of love now." Now, Karen says, I have recommended this TED Talk countless times, a love letter to realism in the time of grief. Why do I think I've seen that? I don't know, but I'll go back and look at. Should I stay or should I go? Yay, thank you for putting that in there. Should I stay or should I go now? All right. I needed a little chuckle. Yeah, so right. So then some of us, like you, Mish, say you get stuck, frozen. And in many ways, self fulfilling prophecies abound. Yes. I agree, Richard. Never say never. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about with this um, harvesting. If what I'm saying is to grow out of the roots, what do I really want? Maybe what I really do want is to love and to be loved. Reminds me of Moulin Rouge. um, and and to risk it. I don't know what that looks like, but it was something that over the decades, I have done this what I felt was self-protection. It probably was self-harm in a lot of ways because I just couldn't take any more hurt and heartbreak. And when I literally lost my mom, and I was a great daughter, as flawed and imperfect as I was and am as a daughter, as a human, I loved that woman and I cared for that woman. And I did the best I could for her in her later, through her trials and tribulations. Um, and so, yeah, I accept that because for a long time I kept saying I probably wasn't the best daughter and I probably didn't help her very much. That's bullshit. And I call bullshit on that. It's not true because I loved and I learned patience from her. And I hope I don't have to go through another round of traumas in order to find it again because lately it's my patience meter is a little bit, it's not as big. Let me just see. Thank you, Karen. I could use a big hug, and I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. And I think I get wishy washy when I'm having some health issues and I don't feel so good, and I'm like, oh shit, no one's gonna miss me when I'm gone. Isn't that a little narcissistic? um, I need this conversation as of lately. I've been in, yeah, and I'm sorry, Tiff. I am. And I do want to put this out here. I'm not kidding with the reach out and touch. When I started this channel, I wanted a separate section for grief talk, and I didn't get a lot of feedback. So I don't want to force that out into the universe. But I think, I've been great. I will have moments that I can acknowledge, and I will send up a prayer or a smile or a laugh. Um, and um, and I'm good. I think that as I become more introspective and I talked about growth and I talk about this stuff, I'm doing that for self growth. I'm doing that because I'm planting a garden of me, and all the parts of me that want to reach out and stretch out and be a better human, be a more patient human, be a kinder human, because lately I've not been feeling kind thoughts. And that, again, that doesn't make me a bad person, and I know that. But it's this evolution. Uh, were you the perfect person? Too unrealistic expectations on both sides, right? For me, I have never been fully present. Nobody else can give us what we don't even know we need ourselves. And I do know, I think that's it, Mish, is that I do know what I want. I just didn't think I would receive it. And part of that came from, and I've talked about this last year a lot, was not feeling worthy to deserve it. Like I'm going back to the Sound of Music now. I must have done something bad because good stuff wasn't happening. So somewhere in my life, I must have done something to not make me worthy. Now, I have worked really hard on flushing all of that. And so, yes, I don't know if it's a fairy tale. Karen says the TED Talk would sound familiar because I have recommended it here a couple of times. So that maybe I did see it, Karen. Um, have a little patience. Grief is such a hard topic for most people to speak up about because it's uncomfortable. But I do think, Mish, it is uncomfortable. Hell's bells, it is so uncomfortable. But I think what makes grief talk beneficial is it should be a safe space, because here's the thing. We have one thing in common. Someone died, and we have some kind of a reaction. Now, there are some people that died that I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Like, I hate that person. I'm glad they're gone. I had that thought once. Um, there's a lot on the internet that right now that's going on that says the wrong 80-year-old died this week, poor Dolly Parton. But I don't want to be that person. And I don't want to wish death on anybody else. You know, being the being evolved, I don't want to wish ill on somebody else, even if they are a horrible human being. Who the heck am I to cast that kind of a judgment? They'll get theirs when the time comes. It's not for me to judge it, and it's not for me to pray about it, and send that kind of energy out into the world, because I don't want that ever directed at me. Mish says, being the perfect person, I didn't deserve it, so I had to go above and beyond. Until one day I just broke, and I thought I was already broken. But I think the broken factor is something that has its own layers. Yes, I agree. Karen says, I always think of the song Lifeline by Nilsson on his album he did with Ringo Starr called The Point. Mm. Tim Curry died. Yep. Tim Curry also died. Great actor. There's another guy who died. I can't remember his name. There's a lot of people that have passed, and all of them have value. And I think one of the things that harvesting does is show our maturity. And so, what does maturity look like? It's choosing silence instead of reaction. So, sitting back and observing first, choosing rest instead of proving. And that comes with age. That just comes with the no bullshit meter anymore, right? We get to a certain point. We're done trying to prove to the world and our families, pick me, pick me. I mean, for me, I the people that I used to seek approval for are all dead now. And I worked really hard in the last couple of years not to seek their approval anyway. My only approval I need is my approval. And if I can't approve of my behavior, demeanor, conversations, love meter, if what I'm doing doesn't make me feel good, that's what's important. If, I was always trying to be somebody else's version of me, the good girl. What the hell does a good girl mean? And in the eyes of the people that were judging me to be a good girl, what the hell did that mean? To be the Virgin Teresa until I walked down the aisle? That was never going to happen. Was it the obedient, submissive child? Not going to happen. So I think that, wanting approval from other people is no longer, it's not a criteria for me anymore. But that comes with maturity. And that has helped me through grief. Grief has helped me say, wait a minute, this is my experience. And if it takes me 25 years or the day I die, that's my journey. I would never put on my brothers how they measure and manage grief or move on from it or, don't live in the space that I do. That doesn't make it better or worse or healthier. It makes it theirs, right? When we mourn someone we love, it's an individual experience and it's my experience. And I have space for people to have their experience also. So I think maturity sometimes is invisible, but the experience becomes more natural. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, so when I think about the part of me, going back to the garden, that feels ripe. Yeah, Tim Curry died today. I know. He was such a great actor. And I know a lot of people think of him from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but he has been in so many movies. And he was such a talented man. Um, but yeah, so he's gone on. And unfortunately, you know, his story will get lost in the Dolly Parton story because so many more people knew her, had a response to her in some way. But yep. All right. So the ripeness is the project for me that keeps returning. The idea that won't leave me alone. The relationship that feels like I'm ready for a deeper conversation. I don't have that. It's the it's the project that keeps returning to me, which is if I have a messy house and I have unpacked boxes and I have disorganization, I don't have to let anybody else into my life, into my home, into my space, which falsely makes me feel safe because then I can't be hurt by being rejected, by people not responding in the way that I would want them to. See the cycle? Uh, oh, yeah. Yes, it does get lonely that way, Mish. And it was strategic. And I think it's been strategic. So harvesting this month, when we come back to this thought process, It's about, when I was at my brother's and I was helping him get his home ready so that his friend could come home and have clean house. And we just killed ourselves getting that place set up and organized and all that kind of good stuff. Um, and I came home sort of rip roaring and I was purging and doing stuff. And then a couple of things happened. And then I had two bloody summer colds. And then, but there was excuse after excuse. Yet when I went to the dog park, I was weeding like a banshee and feeling cathartic by pulling the weeds out of the earth, which then made me come home and start to work on my garden, pulling the weeds out of the garden, the things that don't benefit my plants, my veggies, my flowers. Um, and that's been sort of a revelation for me to do that. But being in the house, I still get stuck. And I've been focusing on a lot of decluttering shows because I don't really have a lot of, maybe that's not a true statement. I was going to say I don't have a lot of stuff. I don't have a place to put stuff. And I refuse to buy anything else because I have, over the 4 years of living in this apartment, purchased enough kind of storage that if I can't imagine or way, it's on me. And that's part of the ripeness, right? The ready to harvest, the ready to express. And so what I'm the energy that I'm sort of putting out there to transmute as we move into September is really, it's, as my nana used to say, shit or get off the pot, you know? Uh, yeah, body, absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. Um, and um, so it's being truthful. What's needed and what isn't needed. What do we want and what don't we want? How do we then, name what it is? So fear becomes clarity when you name what you're afraid of. I'm afraid of being hurt. Fear. I'm afraid of being rejected. I'm afraid of not being included. This overwhelm becomes the structure when you name what's too heavy. And doubt becomes the direction when you name what you truly want. So, to shake it off, I think that's a Taylor Swift song. Shake it off, shake it off. I'm not sure. Um, it's letting it go. It's not tying myself into the earth when it's time to pick the ripe fruit off. I have such an abundance of life growing in my backyard. I've started to take some videos to post. Um, and if I can focus long enough to create a short, I will, if I don't screw it up. Um, but the tomatoes are in abundance. The cucumbers this year are really starting to come alive. Um, Eventually, the eggplant will grow. They're really slow to come to life. And I think that's because the tomatoes have overshadowed them. I have a tomato plant that's over 10 feet tall. Can you believe it? I can't even stick a stick anymore up there to hold it. So it's just going to have to hang over. Um, Tons of lemon thyme and chamomile and mint, spearmint, peppermint, uh, chocolate mint. I don't like the chocolate mint, and I thought I would. Pineapple mint, um, onions, potatoes of all kinds. My sweet potatoes are not ready yet, and my big russet potatoes aren't ready yet. But the smaller white potatoes and red potatoes are ready to harvest. Um, the carrots I had to replant; they didn't do well, so we'll see what happens. But as I'm pruning and all the flowers that are coming out and alive, and tons of lettuce and blah blah blah, it's just been a joy for me. And as I was weeding, I was kind of thinking of it, this kind of conversation, that the weeding out is sort of the truth of the process. Sometimes things will grow and sometimes they won't. So some of my ideas and some of the decisions I've made in the house will work and some won't. And if I'm going to live in fear, I just should write it on the mirror. I'm choosing fear. I'm choosing, because I'm choosing it. I'm choosing to limit myself from what I keep saying I really want, which is connection and community. Well, not really. If I choose to keep the house so that I can't let anybody in it, then I'm not really choosing that. It's in order for it to become true, I have to do something. And you know what I'm saying? Lotso mint. Yeah, Mesh. The sister's dog would eat her tomatoes off the vine as soon as they were. Yeah, well, and let me tell you, I also had a thing of strawberries that were growing, and I had put it on the other side of my fence, on the street side of the fence, because I was running out of space. But it seems like a lot of people on the street are picking the strawberries, and they didn't get as much sun as they needed to. I'm definitely going to change it for next year, which will probably be the last year that they'll live here, um, because I'm trying to reimagine the should I stay or should I go, and I kind of feel like going, though terrifying to me, will open doors because it's going to force me to reimagine the next 5, 10, 15 years. Um, I'm going to have to get out into the community from where I will be living, because where I will be living is very remote. There are no neighbors for me to look out the window and curse at. Um, there are no cars or drug deals happening outside my window and having my dogs bark insanely. Um, but 10 minutes from the house, there's a world. And so that means I actually have to get in my car and go someplace. And I can't tell you how much that terrifies me. And I know some of you know this and you also experience this. But at, at the end of my life, which could be tomorrow, it could be 20 years from now, or somewhere in between, I don't want to be, oh, I really wish I had done X, Y, and Z. And so that's why a couple of Thursdays I didn't have a show, because I really wanted to go to our local park, took the dogs, and watch our local concerts. There's a Neil Diamond impersonator, and I got I sang all the songs with the dogs, and no one could hear me. And um, a couple of other bands were out there, and it was really, I was still distant, but could see community. Now, when I bring the dogs, I don't like to thrust them into that environment. And they would have had a blast. Everybody would have come up to these little chuckleheads and loved on them. But then it would have taken away from me listening to the concert. Right? So harvesting to me reveals this clarity. It makes me realize that you need rest to grow. And I have not been sleeping, partly because of these chuckleheads of mine being sick and getting up all hours of the night, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they're healthy now. They better be. They've cost me enough money to be healthy. Um, and, but now it's really about me relinquishing. Why am I holding on to the fear of rejection? If I say that my life isn't about approval, then what am I afraid of? If I'm afraid that people are going to die, guess what? They're going to die. The people I love most in this world are going to die. And I want to be able to cry and mourn them and not feel like it's a punishment, because it's not a punishment. And if I believe what I truly believe, then my soul connection with the people that I love the most, I'll connect with. And, I still have this vision of my mother and my nana sitting there having coffee and eating cannolis saying, oh my God, stop being so damn dramatic. You'll see us soon enough. Time has no space. Time has no meaning. And so I'm, some days I'm just dragging it out. And I'm using it as an excuse to prevent me from interacting. Right? It will be a new beginning, Mish, because, in my head for 2 decades, I have been talking about creating an environment where like-minded people or not can come and listen and learn from good teachers. I don't have to be the teacher. Certain things I can be the teacher. But there are people and communities and have meditation circles and have soap baking circles and have a reading circle and have a knitting circle and a painting circle. Whatever it is, to grab different elements and different people to build a community so that when I'm 80, I'm not alone. Because we shouldn't have to be alone. And I see it all the time. Why am I hesitating? I certainly don't think I'm better. Somebody said, well, you think you're better than everybody else. I don't. That's not why I was doing it. And I can't explain it to other people that don't have ears to hear with, right? If you don't listen, then you're never going to comprehend the story or the journey of someone else. Till you walk a mile in someone's shoes, you're not going to be able to understand. You can't teach that to a 15 or a 20 or a 30-year-old person that's just learning life and just living life and just experiencing it. Now, I could step back and say there are a few people that have had some hell's bells lives, and that some young people have struggled from the time they were brought into this earth and they've had some shit thrown at them. But the majority of us humans, especially me, I thought I knew it all when I was 10 and 12 and 15 and 17 and 20. And I just intuitively knew everything. Started to hit my 30s. I'm like, I don't know nothing. I hit my 40s. I'm like, hell's bells, I really don't know anything. And then this journey of, I don't know if I want to call it spirituality, but I don't have a tangible word right now. But this evolution of spirit, that we can heal ourselves. But it really does take acknowledgement that we have to want to heal ourselves. And why don't we want to heal ourselves, which is going to be another topic for another day, because partly it keeps us where we are, because stepping outside of where we are is scarier than staying where we are. Does that make sense? You know, a small step, a small reinvention, a small refinement of something is better than none. Hi, handsome. Do you want to say hi to everybody? Oh, I love you so much. He says, I got my harness on. I'm ready to run when the time comes, Mom. I'm not rushing you. I'm not putting you under pressure, but it's going to be soon. Oh, you both hurt your paws. I'm a bad mama. Um, yeah, Cromel, looking forward to a new adventure is challenging, but it also means personal growth. Amen, brother. And I really believe that. And I think, you know, I was so fearless, at least by buying my first house all by myself. And it wasn't just a little house, it was a huge dream I was buying. And the growth that I underwent, and the ability to have my mom live with me and to host my family and have them stay for times, for weekends, was just a gift, a true gift. Do I miss that house? Hell's bells, yes, I do. And if I was in that house, I wouldn't even be talking about moving. But you'd be carting me off to the poorhouse, because there's no way I could afford that. But um, where I could potentially move to, there's a community that's ripe for the taking. And I've done some research on it. No, not as much as I need to, but I hadn't really said, yes, I really am going to do this, but I'm going to do it. Um, it's just taking shape. So, yes, I agree with you. Um, Mish says, I've lost touch with the ones I love most, including myself. How much different is that than other loss? The problem is I have no fucking idea what to do about it. I really want to talk to you, because I think that, again, very much like this harvesting, one small step for mankind. One small step. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that, Karen. We all did think that we knew everything when we were young. Like the sign you see in some places, quick, hire a teen while they still know everything. So funny. Um, our house is a very fine house. Our house. I love that song, Cornell. Can you remind me? Is it Crowded? Who sang that song? It's not Crowded House, is it? Our house in the middle of the street. Our house. There was a coffee shop or a restaurant in Boston where I spent most of my time, and the favorite man that I ever dated took me to our house, and I thought, what a great idea. And I think, the Starbucks of the world and the Dunkin' Donuts of the world took away the intimacy of coffee houses. And I'm not anti either of those places. I don't drink their coffees. Starbucks will, kill my gut, and Dunkin' Donuts is not strong enough. And Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Thank you. Play my love songs all night long. Um, One thing that I found, Richard says, one thing that I found interesting while exploring advice on how to figure out my rising sign, no idea what time I was born, Was to look back at yourself when you were young. Well, absolutely. And most of my youth, I was looking to be rescued. That's the truth. I was looking to go back where I came from. I was like, beat me up, Scotty. I don't belong here. My rhythm, my thoughts, my feelings did not mesh with my surroundings. That doesn't make the people around me bad, but no one understood me. No one understood how to work with me. And the gifts that I had, they kept shutting them down. And they silenced my third eye. They silenced my intuition. And the way that I compensated, I believe, was this false sense of knowing and my empathy of feeling everyone's pain, sometimes thinking it was my own pain. And that was a huge distinction 2017, 2018, when I started to really dive into this holistic path, that when we grab onto things, it may not be our pain. It's someone else's, and we didn't know how to almost bubble wrap it. So, oh, that's that person, you know, that's their experience, Teresa. That's not your pain. You can relate to it, but you're feeling it and you're taking that and you're grieving it. I grieved so many people's experiences with them and for them. And partly that made me feel seen and recognized and valued and important and worthy. When you start to uncouple that, you're like, well, I don't have a purpose anymore. And I think one of the things that I have struggled with is not having a purposeful, purpose filled life, right? What is this potential? What is this purpose? Where do I go? What do I do? You know, people could say, yeah, you're a really great person. What does that mean? So it's taking these little steps in my garden of me and saying, what do you value? You can't go back and undo the things you've done, the money you've spent, the relationships that you've had. They all have contributed to the small incremental growth. And yes, some of the failures are still growth. It is still growth. It's the evolution of, well, that doesn't sit well with me anymore. I don't need to have 55 boxes of Band-Aids. I don't, but I'm using that as an example. You know, it's like, and I follow a lot of preppers. And so there's a lot coming out right now of, you need to stock up on these things because the end of the world's basically coming. You know, Canada, we're going to be taxed up the wazoo. We're not going to be able to buy this. Mexico's going to screw us. Everybody that we import from, we're going to get screwed. And our farmers are pissed off because we're importing beef. Well, talk to the president. Uh, he took away the USDA inspectors, so your beef may not be safe for us to eat. Go local. And that's what we're doing here. Okay. I used to say my shoulders are broad. I'd rather take it than someone else go through it. I did the same thing, effectively hurting both of us. But also, who the hell said I was chopped liver? Everyone, if I say it myself. Yeah, Mish. And I think by taking it on, we didn't really take it all on. Other people still had experiences. Um, and and why did we want to take it on? Because it made us feel almost invincible and needed. Carmel says, the thing I remember of being a child was that I'm doing here with these people I'm living. Oh, yeah, hang on. I got to put my glasses on. I'm struggling to read. Uh, yeah, what am I doing here with these people I'm living with? Yeah. When I was 14, you left them behind and finally started living your life. How freaking brave. Seriously. How brave to know you didn't belong where you were and you stepped out. As scary as that must have been, wow. Because, you know, that's, you're still impressionable. You're still trying to figure out how to live. So, you know, hell's bells to you, pal. I mean, wow. I had so many bags. I couldn't keep up at one point. Being prepared actually kept me unprepared. Yeah, I know. I know. These but again, what that says is that we felt productive and proactive by doing something that we had no control over, but we had control over this small corner of something. One of the channels I follow, one of the homestead channels I follow, said, asked a question, posed a question. If everything stopped tomorrow, what would you be most concerned about? And it was food, toilet paper, animal care, and one other thing I forgot. Um, and, you know, for me, I think it would be food, animal care, right? But I save every plastic big gallon of milk or juice or whatever iced tea that I drink, and I fill them up with water because for a while here I was really worried about water. I'm still worried about water, and I recycle the water. I'll go through and I'll refresh it. I will water the plants. I'll give some to the animals. Our water here is very heavily chlorinated. I don't want to give it to the animals. I won't drink it. I filter everything. Um, but, um, now I have to go through the pantry because some of this stuff is too old. And I'm not in a space of canning. But in my new environment, I am going to be able to can and store it appropriately. And that's this gardening experience is preparing me for my next venture. And it won't be this year, but I'm thinking about volunteering someplace to learn how to raise chickens at someone else's farm so that when I get where I'm going, I can raise 6 or 8 or 10 chickens and have fresh eggs. And, um, you know what I mean? So but that's still I don't want to say it's the fantasy, but it's the dreaming. Now, am I going to let fear stop me? And that's part of what we're doing here is so that I know that as I get closer, I'm going to give me the tools. And guess what? If I fail, I learned something and I won't make that mistake again. It was kind of like dating, except I never learned and I kept making the same mistake because I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted someone to love me. I just kept choosing the wrong picture of what that looked like. And I allowed myself in life to be deceived. And 9 times out of 10, I knew I was being deceived. I knew someone was trying to blow smoke up my skirt. It was vaporware what they were selling me, right? So, what I would say is I would encourage you, whatever you gathered up this month that you want to carry forward, whatever lessons that you learned, carry forward the things that nourish you, our relationships, our conversations, anything that might inspire thought or action or art, whatever. It's having that new mindset and that new practice of stepping outside a little bit each day, doing something that you wouldn't have done the day before. Um, and I got to tell you, it's painful. It's hard. And it's not so easy. And I know a lot of you are going through this. I don't have a lot in my budget. When I saw what was left, and I still have until the 31st, I'm like, oh, crap. But that doesn't mean I have to trap myself in the house. I can, if I don't want to walk to the local park, I can drive to the other park and just sit outside. Doesn't mean I have to be with other people. Doesn't mean I have to threaten my space, but move. Fall's coming. It's one of my favorite seasons, and it's also the physically darkest times, which impacts my thought process. So I want to prepare myself for that because there are things that I promised myself this year I was going to do and I want to accomplish before the end of this year. Next week, I start making my butters. I know that sounds funny, but I make an herb butter and a honey butter and just a plain butter. And I have a book. Where is it? I'll show you. I think it's going to show up backwards. The Natural Healing Book. And in it has all of these recipes. So there are things here for metabolic health. And so the things that I can start to make, the oatmeals and the things that go in it, and the quiches. I do a crustless quiche. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff. I really like this book. It's brand new to me. And for me, it's to inspire to be the person I said I wanted to be. And as I think about the changes, and for some reason, if something happens and this move doesn't occur, my plan is still going to be the same. I am going to somehow create, through courage and determination and emotional support, these things that I want to do instead of waiting for someone to say, hey, Teresa, come join this knitting circle. Now, I was just recently diagnosed with osteoarthritis in my hands, so sadly, that's going to be harder for me to do, but I can still make soap. So I'll make soap then if I can't knit. Some other things that I wanted to do, doing the butters, making the cream cheese, making the sour cream, doing the things, becoming part of a farming community somewhere where I can learn some skills. I don't necessarily want to have a cow and I don't want to milk one. I'd like to try it, but I don't want to have it in my space. I also, whatever I do, whoever I have to leave it for behind, I have to have a plan for. And that's something else that I'm focusing on. Hi, handsome. Did you see this little handsome boy? He's saying, hey, lady, shut the fuck up because it's time to go for a walk. Build Me a Buttercup. I love that song. Anyway, yeah, martyrdom complex, Mish. Yes. But I did the same thing. But that does something for us, right? It made us feel good. Like I was important to somebody and I fell on the sword for somebody. But did it really? And what did it do for me? It made me feel valued and seen and heard, even though I probably wasn't. But in this brain of mine, it made me feel like I was being seen. And what I What I want to encourage everybody, including myself, is it doesn't matter who sees you. You have to see you. I have to see me. And when I see me, everybody around me sees me. Shocking. Right? So it's really, but it's we all want the same. Well, I don't want to say we all want the same thing. I think the majority of us want to feel loved, to be seen, to be heard, to be attended to be acknowledged, um, to be loved, to be loved, to be loved for who we are, flawed and all, um, and appreciated. I don't always. I thought that when I did things for people, I just wanted the appreciation. But if I was being truthful, when I gave, I was looking for something similar back. I wanted someone to feel that back towards me, not to necessarily give me something. And I had some really generous people in my life, friends that are, you know, die hard. I'm really, truly blessed that they've been in my life for over 40 years. Um, but it was more the community aspect because it was important to me, but it wasn't including family until recently. And I've shut myself off from family as well because I just don't want to be hurt and ignored anymore. And so my bullshit meter, it went from being here to here. I don't have to put up with it anymore. And guess what? If you don't want me around as a result, I can live with that. And that's what I want us to get to the point to is our voice, what's important to us, to me, what I want to do. I'm tired of people saying, "No, you should. What do you want to do that for? You shouldn't want to do that. Don't tell me what I should or should do. If I want to go sing opera, I should freaking go sing opera. You don't want me singing opera, but if I wanted to." And I think that's what I want to inspire is look, imperfect. And you know what? I'm okay with being imperfect. I'm okay with being flawed. Where I thought it made me less, I've always been trying to keep up with somebody else's picture. Why? Why, Santa Claus? Why? Why do I want to be in that frame, picture frame? Why don't I want to be in my picture frame? Okay, let me just tie up the comments and I will set you all free. And guys, I put my eyeglasses down again. Hold on. Richard says, one thing that I found interesting while exploring advice on how to figure out, I read that one already. Sorry, Richard. And what you were like a bit more naturally and what you enjoyed. Yeah. Yes, I read that. Okay. I read that. Yeah, education is important. Thank you, Mish. I love you guys. Right back at you. Keep the dream alive. You might have setbacks, but never give up dreaming. I agree. Build me up, Buttercup. Gave me strength in many ways. I could take it, but why? Yeah, I just need, I just need love to be loved by you. Yes, just to breathe without apologizing for taking other people's air, because you're not taking other people's air. That's the most important thing. You're entitled to the air. Oh, so many people with halitosis. Free, free, set me free. Set me free, why don't you, babe? That's what I'm going to be singing when I take the dogs to the dog park. No, was it really, Richard? Halitosis was made up by the company that makes Listerine. Those little stinkers. Anyway, guys, uh, I have so many little things that I want us to catch up on over the next couple of weeks. And we're starting a new month next week. I think, actually, I don't, whoops, sorry. I have to look at the calendar for a second because um, yeah, next Tuesday is the 1st of September. So we'll be chatting then with some new things. But um, uh, I don't want to drop the grief topic um, because I think that it is part of who we are, and as we continue to age, we are going to see more and more of it in our lives from people that we care about. And how can we prepare ourselves without falling to pieces? And how can we, in my case, um, not die from that grief, right? So let me see. Yeah. Yeah, don't forget to do all the YouTube thingies. I have a couple of tabs open and ready. Don't forget to watch the TED Talk I recommended. Oh, I won't forget, for sure. And I appreciate everything, guys, so much. And I appreciate you being here. Um, I struggle sometimes with whether or not I bring any value. And then I just have to say to myself, do what comes naturally to me, and the rest will follow. So I love you. Thank you all so much for being here. As always, I send you with love, with light, with healing, with compassion, with joy, sprinkled with a lot of giggles and laughter. So until next time, please be well. I bless you. I send you love. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but have a good weekend. Mwah!